My husband told me to quit my dream job because a wife should never make more money than her husband. So I made a different decision. I wasn't looking for a new job. I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't browsing listings or updating my resume or doing any of the things people do when they're ready to leave. They came to me. A recruiter reached out on a Tuesday afternoon, said her client had been watching my work for 2 years and wanted to have a conversation. I almost ignored it. I had been with my company for 8 years, built something real there, but I took the call. 3 weeks and 4 interviews later, they offered me director of strategy, $280,000 base, equity package, full relocation budget, a team of 12 reporting directly to me. I sat in my car in the parking garage and read the offer letter 3 times. Then I called my husband, Marcus. He let me get through maybe 30 seconds of excitement before he asked the question. What's the salary? Not, that's incredible. Not, I'm so proud of you. Not, tell me everything. What's the salary? I told him. Silence. We need to talk tonight, he said, and hung up. I should have heard it then. The thing that silence was actually saying. But I drove home with the offer letter in my bag and told myself he just needed time to process. I had been telling myself that for 6 years. Dinner that Sunday at his parents' house had been planned weeks ago. I had not planned to say anything about the offer until Marcus and I had talked properly. But Marcus mentioned it before the appetizers were cleared. Just dropped it into the conversation like he was reporting bad news. Elena got some job offer. His mother, Carol, put down her fork. His father leaned back in his chair. His brother asked what kind of job. And just like that, I was sitting at a table of 5 people who had decided this was a problem to be solved. Carol spoke first. Honey, that's a big salary jump. How does Marcus feel about that? I looked at Marcus. He shook his head slightly, like he'd already decided. His father said a man needs to feel like the provider. It's just how it is. His brother said his wife had turned down a promotion once for the same reason. Said it was the right call. These things have a way of creating resentment whether we want them to or not. I looked around the table. 5 people. All nodding. All completely certain. And I said nothing. Not a word. I picked up my fork and finished my dinner. Marcus kept glancing at me on the drive home. Waiting for the argument. Waiting for me to push back or defend myself or cry. I stared out the window. You understand what we're saying, right? I looked at him. I understand exactly what you're saying, I said. And then I looked back out the window. He seemed relieved. He shouldn't have been. That night after he fell asleep, I lay in the dark and thought about 8 years. 8 years of adjusting my schedule around his. Turning down networking events because he felt left out. Downplaying wins at dinner parties so he didn't go quiet afterward. Taking the smaller office instead of applying for the senior position because the timing wasn't right for our family. His family. His timing. I thought about his first question. What's the salary? Not, are you excited? What's the salary? And I thought, I have been shrinking myself for so long that he has forgotten I have edges. I turned over and went to sleep. In the morning, I called my lawyer before breakfast. I accepted the offer that afternoon. Sent a single text to Marcus from the parking lot of the new office. Building after my onboarding meeting. 8 words. I took the job. I'm moving out Sunday. He called 11 times before I reached the highway. I let all 11 go to voicemail. My best friend Danielle had a spare room. She helped me pack that Saturday while Marcus was at a work thing he couldn't cancel. 3 boxes of clothes, my laptop. The folder of documents I had quietly organized over the previous week. She handed me a glass of wine when we were done. To knowing when to stop shrinking, she said. I'll drink to that. His mother showed up at my new office on a Wednesday. Got past the front desk by saying she was a client. Made it all the way to the 3rd floor before security caught up with her. She was telling anyone who would listen that I had blindsided her son. That I was selfish. That I had destroyed a good marriage for a paycheck. My assistant knocked on my glass door. There's a situation in the lobby. I know, let security handle it. I went back to my meeting. My boss stopped me in the hallway afterward. Everything okay? Getting better every day. The divorce took 5 months. Marcus's lawyer submitted a claim that my sudden income jump had created a lifestyle dependency he could no longer sustain alone. He attached a financial breakdown of the apartment he'd had to downgrade to, the car he'd had to trade in, the gym membership he'd canceled. My lawyer submitted something better, screenshots. Text messages Marcus had sent his friend group over the previous 2 years. A running thread where he complained about my long hours and also bragged about the vacations they paid for. The kitchen renovation, the car we leased. All of it funded largely by my income, while he described himself as the one keeping things stable at home. He wanted credit for a life my salary built, and then wanted compensation when I stopped building it for him. The judge read through the submission without expression. Then she looked up, request denied. I started the new role the week the divorce was finalized. Threw myself in completely, built the team, set the strategy, exceeded the first quarter targets by 22%. My boss put a bottle of champagne on my desk on a Friday afternoon. For someone who wasn't looking, she said, you've made yourself impossible to imagine losing. 8 months later, I bought the house. 4 bedrooms, a yard big enough to actually use. In the neighborhood Marcus used to point at from the highway and say, someday, maybe. I didn't wait for someday. I threw a housewarming party and filled every room. Danielle gave a toast. To Elena, who was always this person. She just finally stopped apologizing for it. He showed up at the party. I don't know how he found out about it. He rang the doorbell. My neighbor's husband answered. When I came to the door, Marcus was standing on the front step with a bottle of wine, and that expression I recognized. The one he used when he wanted to have a reasonable conversation, where I ended up being reasonable and he ended up being forgiven. I looked at him for a moment. Then I looked at the security team I had hired for the event. He was walked to his car calmly and professionally. No scene, no conversation. No moment for him to say the thing he had come to say. The door closed. Someone handed me a drink. Someone else asked about the kitchen renovation I had finally done. I turned back to my party.